Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you all here. Today we are actually going to go through all of my priority spring reads, so my spring TBR. And yes, I know that spring is almost over, so I don't have a lot of time left to read through any of these, but I did still want to go through them because I do want to do seasonal TBRs, because I am very much a mood reader. I do pick up books kind of based on what I'm interested in at that particular moment. And one of the things that really affects my mood reading is the changing of the seasons. So different seasons just give me a lot of different vibes and make me crave different types of stories. And then of course there are some books that take place in certain seasons, and I tend to like to read those during that season. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 12 books that I most am excited to read this spring, and then we'll look at all of the other books on my TBR that are also like part of the spring category. But these books, like I said, they just remind me of spring in some way, whether it's, the flowers or just the blooming of nature, the animals coming out of hibernation and having, little babies. This sense of like growth and renewal and love and joy. I love spring. It's my second favorite season after fall, so I'm excited to go through these. And when I say that these are books that I want to read during spring, I do mean, for me, that spring encapsulates the months of March, April, and May. And I know that that's not exactly, like, the seasons don't line up so perfectly with the beginnings and ends of months. But for me, that's kind of how I look at them. Like, we have spring in March, April, May, summer in June, July, and August, fall in September, October, November, and then winter in December, January, and February. That's just the way that my brain works. That's the way that I see it. So that's how we're going to sort these. Also, I apologize for my voice. If you saw last week's video, you know that I was getting over the flu. And my voice is still not great. I still have like the cough lingering, so I do apologize if I sound funny. So I did a video earlier, a couple weeks ago, about my overall priority reads for 2024. So I will link that below if you guys are interested. But this is going to be books specifically for spring that I want to read. Will I read all of these this spring? Probably not. But I do want to just kind of go through the ones that I'm most excited about, which means that I do only have like 1 month left to get through these. And I haven't been doing a lot of reading this spring because work has been so busy, and then I got sick with the flu, and before that I also got like some sort of respiratory something at the beginning of spring as well. So, and then there's been a lot of family stuff going on, but anyway, I do still have high hopes because work is going to end for the semester within the next couple weeks, so I'll be able to get a lot more reading done. But I've kind of rambled on probably a bit too much at this point, so we're going to go ahead and look at the first book. And this one I have already started reading, and that is A Fragile Enchantment by Allison Saft. So I am loving this book so far. I'm over halfway through it. We follow our main character, who, her name is spelled Niamh, but I believe, I looked it up and I believe it's pronounced Neve. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but that's what I believe that's how you pronounce it. So we have our main character, Neve, who is from Macland. And essentially it's very much like a fantasy Ireland or Scotland sort of vibe, and then we have like fantasy England. So Neve's family is very much struggling for money financially, and so she works as a seamstress and a tailor. She makes clothes, and she has the magical ability to sew memories and emotions into the things that she makes. And she gets hired by the Prince Regent of Avaland, to come and be the sort of design and create all of the clothes for his younger brother's wedding. So she goes to do that. There is some unrest going on amongst some of the working classes. She you know, meets the prince, becomes friends with him and with his bride-to-be, and it is an arranged political marriage. So, you know, we have that going on. I'm sure you can probably guess that she and the prince start to maybe have some feelings for each other. And then there's also this, you know, this gossip column that is been talking a lot about the political scene and kind of bashing the Prince Regent's reign and all this stuff. So there's a lot going on in this book, and I'm not sure how it's all going to intertwine yet, but I'm very much enjoying it. It feels a lot like a just fairy tale, a sweet, cozy, like it's just delightful. And I mean, there are some like hard things in here, but it just is so lovely. I really, really am enjoying it so far. So those are my thoughts on it at this point. Like I said, I am about a little over halfway through with it. Then the second one that I want to read is A Sign of Affection by Sue Morishita. This is a manga series, and I do have the first 2 volumes, so hopefully I will like it and will be able to continue it. But the premise on the back says, Yuki is a college student who's into friends and fashion. She's also deaf. A chance meeting on a train leads to a serious crush, but can it grow into something more? Yuki, who's always been deaf, is used to communicating with sign language in her phone. But she's not used to English, so when a tourist from overseas asks for directions, she nearly panics, until a handsome stranger steps in to help. His name is Itsuomi, and it turns out he's a friend of a friend. A charismatic globetrotter, Itsuomi speaks 3 languages, but he's never had a deaf friend. The two feel drawn to each other and plan a date on a romantic winter's night, but Yuki's friend is afraid that she might be setting herself up to get hurt. Could this be something real, or will these feelings melt away with the snow? So I know that the story starts in winter, but it just gives me really sweet spring vibes, and I really like romance stories in the spring. I don't know why. So I'm very excited to try this one, and I know that the anime has started recently, so if I really like the manga, then I'll be able to watch the anime, which will be wonderful. Then the next book that I really am so excited to read this spring is actually a continuation of a series that I have already started. So I started the Emily Wilde series last year. I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies over the winter, and I adored it so much. And so now the second book is out, Emily Wilde's A Map of the Otherlands. This is by Heather Fawcett, and I am so excited to read this, and I don't know for sure if this one's going to be springy. The first book had very winter vibes. It took place in like a fictional Icelandic village. There was lots of snow and winter imagery, but this one looks like spring or, you know, early summer, so hopefully it'll fit. But either way, I'm going to read it because I'm super excited to continue with this series. But in this one, we follow Emily Wilde, who works at, is it Cambridge or Harvard? Cambridge. She works at Cambridge. And she studies fairies. So she studies essentially like the fae. And she, in the first book, she like goes to study this particularly undocumented group of fairies, because she is creating an encyclopedia. This is like her magnum opus where she's trying to document all of the different types of fae and, you know, how they interact with humans, how they interact with each other, what they look like, their mannerisms, all of that stuff. And she is joined, to her initial displeasure, by one of her colleagues named William Bambleby. It is William. No, Wendell. Wendell Bambleby, who is very charming, very much the opposite of Emily, who is has some problems making friends and like associating with others and communicating with others. She's very introverted, whereas Wendell is very extroverted, very charming, very sociable, and also possibly not human. So that's kind of the setup for the first book, and then this one is the second one in the series. I don't want to go over the plot for this one because it would contain spoilers, but I loved the first one, and where it ended, I was like, I need more of their story. So I need to find out more. And I just love the characters so much. So I'm so excited to continue this series. And then I have a second manga series that I would like to start this spring, and that is I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino. So I do have I Hear the Sunspot. This one is kind of like so the series is broken up into smaller mini-series, and so we have I Hear the Sunspot, which is this first one. Then we have, I think, 4 Seasons is next, and then Theory of Happiness. It could be the other way around. And then the most recent one, which only has 1 volume out, is Limit. And I do have all of the volumes that are out so far, which I don't normally invest money in multiple books in a series that I'm not currently reading, just in case I don't like it. But I got all of these on sale, and they really sound like something I'm going to enjoy. Because of a hearing disability, so we have 2 manga here that have people who have, something going on with their hearing. Kohei is often misunderstood by others and has trouble integrating into life on campus, so he learns to keep his distance. That is, until he meets the outspoken and cheerful Taichi. He tells Kohei that his hearing loss is not his fault. Taichi's words cut through Kohei's usual defense mechanisms like a knife and open his heart. More than friends, less than lovers, their relationship changes Kohei forever. So it just follows the 2 of them in all of these different volumes and all of these like mini episodes in their lives together. And I do know, or at least I believe, that romance does develop later on, so it just seems really sweet. And this one looks very summery, but other ones just look springish, so this one is one that I want to try sometime in the spring, maybe early summer. And it's been on my TBR for a while, so it is really time for me to try it, especially because I saw that Volume 2 of Limit is now up for pre-order and is coming out later this year, so hopefully I really like this, and then I'll be able to get that one and continue on. And then I have another series that I would like to start, and that is London Calling by Alexis Hall. So this is book 1, boyfriend material, and I do have book 2, husband material as well. And I think there's a synopsis. Yes. Okay. Wanted. One fake boyfriend, practically perfect in every way. Luke O'Donnell is tangentially and reluctantly famous. His rock star parents split when he was young, and the father he's never met spent the next 20 years cruising in and out of rehab. Now that his dad's making a comeback, Luke's back in the public eye, and one compromising photo is enough to ruin everything. To clean up his image, Luke has to find a nice, normal relationship. And Oliver Blackwood is as nice and normal as they come. He's a barrister, an ethical vegetarian, and he's never inspired a moment of scandal in his life. In other words, perfect boyfriend material. Unfortunately, apart from being gay, single, and really, really in need of a date for a big event, Luke and Oliver have nothing in common. So they strike a deal to be publicity-friendly fake boyfriends until the dust has settled. Then they can go their separate ways and pretend it never happened. But the thing about fake dating is that it can feel a lot like real dating, and that's when you get used to someone, start falling for them. Don't ever want to let them go. So, sounds like a cute romance. I'm not usually a big fan of the fake dating trope, but I've seen these books for years and they just sound so adorable. And I think especially the second one, you can tell there's going to be romance, and hopefully if they get established, then the second one will be like them already together. And I don't know, it just sounds sweet. And like I said, I like romance stories in the spring. Something about just the sweetness of it, and the flowers and the picnics and the blue skies and the little rain showers. I don't know, it just makes me yearn for a little romance in my books. So that's one that I also want to try. Then I have 2 more manga series that I would like to start. And yes, I know I'm adding all these new series to try, but I have very little self-control when it comes to starting series, so we're just gonna go with it. But the first one is Lullaby of the Dawn by Ichika Yuno. This one, I got volumes 1 and 2 recently, so you may have seen them in a previous book haul. And I had never heard of it before, but when I saw it, it was on sale from Tokyo Pop, and it just sounds really fun. So I was like, well, we'll give it a shot. And now volume 3 it's either been announced or it's already up for pre-order, so I want to read the first 2 and see what I think about it. Night after night, Elva steps forth into the Black Sea. Sword in hand, he drives back the creatures that surge from the waves. Elva is one of the Kannagi, warrior priests chosen by the divine to protect the island. With his snow-white hair, unaging youth, and black-stained limbs, proof of the corruption that gradually takes the life of every Kannagi, the local people fear and shun him, at least until his path crosses with that of a boy named Alto. Enraptured by Elva's strength and lonely soul, Alto swears to serve him and free him from his cursed fate. After 8 long years, Alto has grown into a capable and fearless young man, unwavering in his devotion to his Kannagi. Elva had long ago resigned himself to an early death, but somehow Alto's presence seems to be gradually healing him of the Black Sea's corruption. So, again, we've got some romance, but we also have some drama. I don't know. It just sounds fun, and look at how sweet they look. So yeah, I'm excited to try it. And then the other manga series that I mentioned is another romance, and this one just looks like the epitome of spring. I mean, look at the sakura blossoms and the flowers and their clothes. It just looks so pretty. But this is My Happy Marriage. I believe it's based off of a light novel, which is by Akumi Agitogi, and it's been adapted into a manga by Rito Kosaka. And this one is inspired by Cinderella, so it definitely has that very sweet romantic vibe, but then I think it's also going to have a lot to do with, like, you know, the abuse from the girl's family. But the back says, all she wanted was a bit of happiness. Considered nigh worthless for having failed to inherit the superhuman powers of the bloodlines into which she was born, Mio Saimori lives her days unwanted and unloved. Her stepmother and very own father have little time or affection for her, and Mio must suffer being treated as a servant by her half-sister who, unlike Mio, is blessed with the unusual powers of their blood. Ultimately seen as nothing more than a nuisance and a drain on the family wealth, Mio is packed off to the Kudo house as a bridal candidate for its heir, Kyoka Kudo. Whispers abound about the Kudo clan, the most powerful in all the land, but will the allegedly cold and cruel house into which Mio aims to marry prove much warmer than the family she left behind? So again, it sounds like it's going to be so sweet, and then have this character who's known nothing but strife her whole life finally find, like, acceptance and comfort and some love. So I do have the first 4 volumes of this because, again, it's one that I really, really think I'm going to enjoy. So I'm really excited to try this one. And I think there's also an anime out for this now, too, which, if the art in the anime is anything like the art on these covers, is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Next I have, again, it's sort of the first book in a series. I mean, it is, but there's like a companion novel to it, so I do consider that a series. But that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I know that this book has been around for a while, but I've just never read it, and it sounds like a lot of fun. And I've heard Elliot from, like, Elliot Brooks, I've heard her talk about how much she likes this, so I'm excited to try it. Oh, and I got it from Pango Books, and someone left their tabs in it. Okay. All sorcerers are evil. Elizabeth has known that as long as she has known anything. Raised as a foundling in one of Ostermere's great libraries, Elizabeth has grown up among the tools of sorcery. Magical grimoires that whisper on the shelves and rattle beneath iron chains. If provoked, they transform into grotesque monsters of ink and leather. She hopes to become a warden, charged with protecting the kingdom from their power. Then, an act of sabotage releases the library's most dangerous grimoire. Elizabeth's desperate intervention implicates her in the crime, and she is torn from her home to face justice in the capital. With no one to turn to but her sworn enemy, the sorcerer Nathaniel Thorne, and his mysterious demonic servant, she finds herself entangled in a centuries-old conspiracy. Not only could the great libraries go up in flames, but the world along with them. As her alliance with Nathaniel grows stronger, Elizabeth starts to question everything she's been taught. About sorcerers, about the libraries she so loves, even about herself. For Elizabeth has a power she has never guessed, and a future she could never have imagined. Okay, so I knew it had something to do with the magical library, but I didn't know all that about the grimoires, and I love books, obviously, but I love books about books, and I love magical libraries. So this sounds wonderful. This sounds very delightful. And I may have been a little bad, and I ordered the sequel to this in a book outlet sale yesterday, or day before yesterday. It might have been yesterday. So hopefully I like this, but I mean, it was really, really cheap in the book outlet sales, so that's how I'm justifying it. And I'll be able to read this, and then once that comes in, I'll be able to read that one. So yes, so that is Sorcery of Thorns, and also look at how shiny that cover is. Very shiny, and I love the art style on it. I think it's very pretty. Then the next book that I want to read this spring, I've never heard anybody else talk about ever, and I've never seen it anywhere else either. But I saw it, was it on Amazon? I think I saw it on like one of those like book lists that you can like go through and check off the ones you've read. And I thought it looked really cute, so I looked it up on Amazon and I ordered it like a while back, and I just haven't read it yet. But that is To Dream in Daylight by Candace J. Thomas. And I do think it might be like an indie book. But it just sounds really, really sweet. And again, it is another romance. But it says, from childhood, Adri and Simon, Adri? Adri. We're going to say Adri. Adri and Simon have always been there for each other through every loss, triumph, joy, and heartbreak. They're perfect for each other, but there's an unfortunate catch. They've only ever met in their dreams. Each of them thinks the other one is just a figment of their imagination. But what if they weren't? All it takes is one video clip to change their lives forever. When timid Adri finds herself going viral overnight thanks to an embarrassing video, all she wants to do is disappear forever. But on the other side of the country, in Portland, Simon sees the video and realizes for the first time that his soulmate, the girl of his actual dreams, is real. Simon's desperate search for Adri leads him through the streets of Chicago, hoping against all odds that they will finally find each other in the waking world instead of losing one another forever to the haze of their dreams. Doesn't that sound so cute? It sounds so cute. So we have a romance between these two characters who have been seeing each other in their dreams their whole lives. And now all of a sudden he knows that she's real and goes to find her. It sounds so, so, so good. And like I said, I've never heard anyone talk about this before, but I'm really excited to try it. I really hope that I will like this one. Alright, so we have 3 books left to talk about, and the next one is a manga, and is the last manga on this list, and that's Usatoki Rhetoric by Ritsu Miyako. It is 1926, the first year of the Showa era. Urabe Kanoko has left her hometown after it turns against her for having the ability to hear lies when spoken. She collapses from hunger after arriving in a town called Tsukumoya, where she meets a poverty-stricken detective named Iwai Soma. Is this fate or something more? So the synopsis is really vague, but what I understand about this story is that we have our main character here who is able to recognize lies whenever she hears them. She meets a detective, and then they end up teaming up to help to solve crimes together. I love a good detective story, especially when it's got like some sort of gimmick like that in it. And I think this is going to be really fun, and the art style is really, really cute. So I do have the first 3 volumes of this, so I'll be able to get a really good sense of the story and what I think about it while checking this out. So then I have actually a poetry collection, and that is The Complete Poems for Christopher Robin by A.A. Milne. So here's the book. I love Winnie the Pooh so much, and this is essentially this is not like necessarily Winnie the Pooh related, but A.A. Milne is the author of Winnie the Pooh, which he wrote for his son Christopher Robin. And he wrote all of these poems for him as well, and this is like a collection of them all together. And just like spring makes me think of romance books, it also really just makes me feel like a kid again. And cozy, sweet books that deal with like this sense of like hominess and like, going outside and jumping in rain puddles and picking flowers and playing with your friends and stuff. I just really think about that a lot in the spring, also in the fall. But like books like The Wind in the Willows is like, The Wind in the Willows covers a lot of different seasons, but it just feels like spring to me. And so this one does as well. So I don't know that I will read all of these poems this spring, but I do want to read some of them. I have read like random ones before in the past, but I just want to go through and like read them all in order. And this does collect all of the poems from his two collections, When We Were Very Young and Now We Are Six. Yes, Now We Are Six. So it's just, and it's illustrated by Ernest Shepard, or E.H. Shepard, who also illustrated the original Winnie the Pooh. I think they're the original illustrations, but like each poem is illustrated, and I love Ernest Shepard's style, so I'm just excited. I'm excited to read it. And then the 13th and final book in this list, I'm happy to say I have already read. And that is The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasolina. So I recently finished this one. It is odd. It's very strange. We have our main character here, Vatanen, who is a journalist, and one day when he's out driving to an assignment with his photographer, they end up hitting a hare, a very young one. And he gets out of the car to go find it and just doesn't come back out of the woods. So the photographer drives off in a fit of anger, and Vatanen decides that, he's going to take care of this hare, make sure it's okay, but you also see that he is very dissatisfied with his life and the way that it's gone, and just all of these expectations of society and stuff. So the hare is kind of the catalyst that leads him to just leave. He leaves it all behind. And he decides to just go and make his way the way that he wants to, doing all these jobs that, keep him like in the forest and going to visit small towns and these things. And so I love that part of it. And he and the hare get into all sorts of shenanigans in this book that they really shouldn't be a part of. And a lot of them are just due to like being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or sometimes the right place at the right time. And it just, but some of the stuff in here bothered me. Some of the choices he makes, some of the things he does kind of bothered me a little bit. But overall, I mean, it's fun. It's, for the most part, it is it's definitely strange. I've never read a book quite like it, but I do like the commentary on just the way that society seems to perpetuate these certain attitudes and expectations, and like breaking free of that. I did really like that. I just didn't always like necessarily what Vatanen was choosing to do sometimes. A lot of the time I'm like with him, but sometimes it just bothered me. And all the other characters, now a couple of the side characters in here I like, but for the most part the side characters are just really frustrating, because of course they represent these, aspects of society that Vatanen is trying to escape from in a lot of ways. So I don't know, but I have already finished this one, so that knocks one off of my list. And I think, did I say 13? It was 12 books, so that means I just have 11 left. 10 after I finish A Fragile Enchantment. Alright, so those are all of the books that I want to prioritize reading this spring. And yes, I know I don't have a whole lot of spring left to do that, but we're going to get through some of them, hopefully. But now what we'll do is we'll have go to Past Aubrey, and I'll show you guys some clips just of me, because I do have more books than this that scream springtime to me. These are just the ones that I'm like most interested in reading at this moment. So we have other contenders, but we're not just gonna go through all of those. Instead, I'm just gonna show you some clips of me shelving them, because I do like move my seasonal books around as the seasons change. So that way you can see other books that I have not read yet that are on my TBR that remind me of spring, and that, who knows, maybe I'll pick up one or more of those this season. And maybe you can also get some more ideas for books that you might want to read this spring. So I will send you to Past Aubrey and you can see all of my spring TBR books. Alright, so those are all of the books that are on my spring TBR for this year. So I'm very excited to get into some of these and to try them out, and hopefully I will love them. But I would love to know what books you're excited to read this spring, or what books you've already read this spring, because I know, like I said, that I'm doing this quite late in the season. But I would love for you guys to let me know in the comments what you're reading or what you've read. Or if any of these books sound interesting and you want to add them to your TBRs, I would love to know that too. Or additionally, if you've read any of these and you would like me to maybe prioritize them over others, or you have thoughts on them that you'd like to share, just please keep it spoiler free, pretty please. But I would love to hear what you have to say. If you'd like to leave an emoji, let's do your favorite flower emoji for spring, since this is my spring TBR. And thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your comments and you being here and sharing in these discussions of books with me. So I look forward to seeing you in my next video. I hope that you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and I wish you all the very best. Bye!